Hello, everybody, and welcome to another one of Iron Shield Financial Planning's Fly on the Wall webinars. My name is Scott Plaskett, and I'm a certified financial planner and the senior financial planner and CEO of the fee-based financial planning firm Iron Shield Financial Planning. If this is your first time tuning into a Fly on the Wall recording, let me quickly explain to you what this is. You're going to experience what it's like to be a fly on the wall during one of my update calls with a member of our Top Guns network. This network is my personal network of specialists. Every so often, I ask a member of my network to touch base with me to bring me up to speed on the latest happenings in their area. And when they call me, I record the call so you can be a fly on the wall for that call. In today's episode, I have an update call with Roger Thorpe, president of Thorpe Benefits. Roger is a group benefits specialist and is known for his leading-edge plan design solutions. In today's discussion, Roger updates me on the group benefits marketplace and provides some clear guidance for business owners on how to turn their group benefits plan from a cost into an investment their employees will truly value. Now, here's the call. Roger, listen, I want to thank you so much for taking the time today to go through. And at a previous conversation we were talking a lot about employee benefits and the evolution of employee benefits. And you'd mentioned that you'd put a bit of a presentation together that you wanted to go through with me. So I thought what we'd do today is just go through that presentation. I'm going to record it and then include it on our website so our business owner clients and other business owners can generally just take a look at this, because I've often seen you as being one of the leading edge thinkers when it comes to employee benefits, and the content that you're providing and the information that you provide me with seems to be just, you're stretching your thinking and you're taking it to the next level where most people and most firms I'm finding are not looking at it as far down the road as you are. But as a result of what you're doing, I find that the plan structure that you're putting together just seems to be that much better. So I'm really excited about today's presentation. I just want to thank you for taking the time today.
You're very welcome.
So why don't? No problem. Yeah, I'm just gonna hand over the controls to you, and I'll jump in with any questions that I have along the way. So I'll give it over to you now.
Okay. So I think compared to the time we talked before, where we looked at sort of the current state of affairs, maybe in terms of business owners being fairly frustrated with the management and cost and maybe the low level of appreciation that employees have for benefits. I think I'd like to be a little bit more future thinking in terms of where we're headed with benefits, and ask people to be a little bit more open to being creative with what they might provide their employees. This is really, I think, an opportunity to create something that is much more effective and much more valuable to the relationship that employers have with their employees. So a little bit of prediction, a little bit of, as I say, future thinking as to where we're going with benefits. So that's why I really called this the evolution of employee benefits. So what I can cover here over the space of 15 or 20 minutes is I'd like to review what the obligations really are between an employer and an employee. And I think we really need to change that combination of that relationship. Doing nothing and leaving things the way they are as the traditional design might provide, I think people are going to miss out on some real opportunities. So I'll talk about what the cost is for doing nothing. A lot of people may have heard of what's called flex benefits. And that's typically something that's reserved for large employers. And now, really, we've redefined what flex means. And I'll talk about how even the smallest companies can build a product or a benefit plan that has a more flexible approach to it, much more attractive ultimately to the employee. And then finally, investments really there needs to be investments in employee well-being. And we can do that also by giving an employee a bit of an incentive to participate in activities related to their health. And that participation will lead to certain progress, and we can even incent for that. So that's a really cool sort of trend that's coming in the world of benefits and wellness. So that's kind of what I wanted to cover. So the first thing is employers need to really think about this main question is, what kind of obligation do they have to an employee in terms of that employee's well-being or their health? If an employee got sick or hurt or wasn't able to work, where does the responsibility of the owner stop, or where does it start? So a lot of employers have just never thought about this before, and they really just use their benefit plan as the secondary or outside mechanism for doing this for them. But a lot of us as business owners kind of think, well, what would happen if Jane walked into my office tomorrow and told me that she has a long-term prognosis of disease that she's going to have to fight over time. How do I want to respond to that? So that's what we call a kind of a social contract between us and our employees. So first, if people can think about that, goes a long way. So really, it begins with how much do I need to protect that employee from a financial loss. So if they were to die, if they were to become disabled, if they were ending up critically ill, or if they needed a very expensive medication, am I willing to pay for those situations and to what extent? So that's where the insurance components of the obligation obviously need to be addressed. The next step, of course, is in the plan itself, am I okay with just simply conveniently reimbursing my employee for virtually everything that they need in terms of their health and their dental claims? And where does that stop? So again, I think it's a great time for people to stop and think about where their obligations start and finish. Now you flip that over to the employee. The employee has never really been thought of somebody who has to really step up and really participate much in a benefit plan until they actually need the benefits. My suggestion here is that we need to tell our employees that they're a big part of the benefit plan experience, and they're a big part of the actual cost of what we incur. So what we use this sort of term as, be a smart consumer. And where we can do it, we want our employees to look for what we call the lowest cost alternative. That's the LCA acronym there. So this is really also a concept of education. If we can teach our employees how to shop around and how to buy their benefits, always wondering whether, can I go somewhere else to get this, or do I really need to purchase it here or for this amount? That's the awareness we need to instill. Now, this is very paramount now because medications are being scrutinized closely. We're asking employees to buy generics, in some cases mandatory that we're getting them to fill a generic versus a brand. And so employees are going to hear a lot more about this along the way. And that's where accountability comes in. So now employees will say, I realize that what I use in this benefit plan is ultimately going to affect the cost of the overall program, of which my employer may pay the most of it, I may pay part of it, but really it's all a function of claims. And that's a big thing that we have to educate them on. Now finally, I think this is really the one major takeaway of this discussion is we need to finally say to our employees, it is their responsibility to learn and develop some education and some skills in terms of taking care of themselves. I think it has been a real shame over the years that employers have simply just accepted that employees can behave in any way they want and can treat their bodies in any way they want at work or in their homes. And really the outcome of that health problem is now becoming the responsibility of the employer. So what we're really saying here is that we're going to, in future, as employees join us or become part of our team, our culture in our company, we're going to say, we are going to give you the opportunity to invest in your well-being, and we're going to give you some education and some tools on how to be a healthier, happier, and more productive individual. I think that's a great message employees need to hear, and they are okay to hear that. But it changes the mindset. It now means employees are going to realize that, maybe it's important for me, as it is everybody in this office, to eat right, get some exercise, get the right sleep, and take care of my stress levels. That's just scratching the surface. So that's what I mean by employee responsibility. Okay, so really then if we take that conversation and we forget it after today and we do nothing and we just keep going with our traditional benefit programs, more or less we're going to be paying more and we're going to have our employees seeing less value, because as time goes on, as we pay more, we're tempted to remove benefits, lower reimbursement levels, and so along the way employees just feel less and less excited about what they're getting. So that's a problem. We don't realize that these unhealthy behaviors that I talked about, or the habits that people have around the office, are costing us greatly. We don't necessarily see it yet in our actual benefit costs or our drug utilization, but we are seeing that employees are struggling with the pace of life and the stress of life. So that's coming out in our absence numbers. We're seeing a huge correlation, obviously, between stress and days missed. That's the number one reason for short-term disability is stress. So a combination of all of these healthy or unhealthy behaviors are really hurting us, I think, as a business in our bottom line. We have, as I said, less people not either showing up or they're not. We have this term presenteeism, so they're at the workplace, but they're really not productive. And then long-term, they are more susceptible to disease and things that are going to really put them out of the workplace. So it has a significant cost. Now, the last thing is, I guess as a business, really people look at us in terms of our productivity and our ability to make money or be profitable in our companies based on our culture. And our culture in our office is very evident. People can see whether people are happy, whether they're engaged, whether they're talking to one another, what the morale is like. So this is really where that element of education around wellness is a huge business advantage for companies. And so they need to do something in that area, even just to compete, I think, in the future, stay in business. So that's how serious I think that is. So again, not doing anything there's a big missed opportunity on a lot of levels. So let's get specific then. Let's talk about what I mean in terms of actual plan design. I use this term flex redefined. As I said, people have heard of what flexible benefits are, but now they are really an element of taking a core plan and then adding something called a healthcare spending account. Now, people may have seen me talk about the so-called hybrid design in the past, and that's kind of what I'm talking about here. I'll just pull these up. So really what I'm saying is that in a benefit plan, we have our core level of protection. We have insurance, which is, say, your life and disability and even critical illness insurance, which is a fixed amount. Maybe it goes to a certain level that we're comfortable providing, and then after that, employees buy their own. They voluntarily buy what they need based on their family commitments, or we educate them, as you might, to purchase additional coverages. Then, in addition to that so-called protection or that insurance that they have within the group insurance plan, then we have a healthcare spending account or wellness account, which is an amount of money that they can use to spend on whatever they need in their health or their dental year. So the nice thing about this is, again, it's a fixed dollar amount that they draw down on, and when they've used it up, they've used it up. But they have a choice to use it in how they like, and they can budget it accordingly. So now, when people think of spending accounts, they traditionally think of drawing down and using that money for paramedical services like massage, physio, nutritionists. But the wellness component is interesting because what we're saying is people in the future will be able to take some of that money and actually use it for preventative reasons, perhaps seeing a nutritionist for the first time, or wellness dollars can be even more flexible where they can be used for gym memberships, so they can be used for fitness equipment. So you can get even more creative with how people can spend those dollars. So the next layer beyond that of the so-called hybrid design is that we need some sort of wellness education. We need employees to be taught, which is kind of funny because it's almost as if, we do development and professional development for our employees in training in our businesses, but we don't continue to really help them become healthier people. We sort of assume that they're doing that on their own, or we leave them up to that. So I think the workplace has a chance to actually give all the employees a way of learning. And you can do this in lots of different ways. It can be simply just lunch and learns and teaching them how to eat properly, how to find even a small amount of time to exercise and what it can do for them, stress level point of view. So that's the education platform then we need to layer in addition to the core hybrid kind of design.
Interesting. Sorry, just 1 second. On that wellness education piece, I've been kind of quiet just letting you go through this information because I just find that there's so much more involved in this process than most of us realize. And, with this, when you talk about wellness education, I got a sense that some employers, they probably have a sense that they don't know what the line is, the line that's drawn in the sand for what they can and can't do, in the sense of how far do we take this education process Is it appropriate for us to be bringing somebody in to talk to our staff about nutrition or whatever it goes into the wellness education? And it's like, well, at what point does an employer potentially overstep their bounds? And I think without the education and understanding from an employer standpoint about what's available with what, exactly what you're talking about today, I think one of the reasons why they don't go to that next level is because A, they don't know where to go, and B, they don't know when they might overstep that bound or overstep that boundary, because they want to treat them well, but they don't want to be seen as the big brother, so to speak.
Yeah, that's a common hesitation, and that's probably why traditionally people have just left this alone. But I think it's really in their best interest not to do that, because the health of their employees will continue to erode as those behaviors eventually catch up. So it's nice to say that I've got a healthy office of the average age is in the low to mid 30s, and everyone here takes care of themselves. Well, that's a very relative term, and it's hard to see what's really going on the inside of what employees are really doing to themselves. So
sure, yeah.
I think the employer has a real obligation or a motivation to help. And it's not just saying, hey, I'm the boss and I want you to do this. You're going to need to create it from the employee level up and endorse it really well from the management level as well. So wellness programs work extremely well when you have employees who are championing the activities and the programming. So it's almost run by them, but the employer is endorsing it. And if you get that combination, these things work really, really well.
Yeah, I can see that.
So that's the kind of the trick to it. One last piece which is interesting is more of a kind of a future way to look at this again is there's a product coming or is on the market already called catastrophic medical. And what it is it's a layer of additional health insurance that says that once an employee reaches a certain level of expenses in the year, this medical insurance will then kick in and pay for the balance of those claims over and above that. People might have heard of something called stop loss or pooling limits, which is designed to take some of those really expensive claimants out of your plan and pay those claims separately. Kind of softens the blow of what's going on in your plan. But we're looking at using this catastrophic medical product as a way of injecting it in even on a lower level. So employers, in fact, will be able to minimize the exposure that they have to the cost of the plan. So I won't go too much more further into that, but that's something that's coming. I think that people are going to hear a lot more about. So let's talk about incentives. This is really an interesting topic. Really, the studies that have been done a lot in the U.S. have told us that even if we give our employee an amount of even financial compensation to get involved in some way in some sort of wellness education, then they are much more likely to do it. So we've heard various numbers come out, and it doesn't necessarily have to be cash. It could be in the form of promotional materials or T-shirts or anything. But it's amazing that if you tell your employee that there's a reward at the end of this program, that and I'm not talking about losing a certain amount of weight, I'm talking about people who just get involved to learn and participate in education. It seems to be that they'll step up and get involved even if we offer a small financial incentive of any kind. Now, we'll do that, as I mentioned, not only for when they get involved to participate, but as they continue to progress and continue to stay involved in the program, we can provide incentives as well. Now, you combine potentially a financial incentive with a social incentive. And what social incentives are is really the peer-to-peer, almost buddy system approach, that what happens when you know, Scott, that I'm running a half marathon, you may think to yourself, I could try that, or I told you maybe about a new nutrition tip that I got that I'm trying and I'm feeling better with. If you and I work together and we publicly make that experience sort of aware, everybody knows about it in the office, it's amazing how that kind of social awareness will build on with everybody, and everybody wants to get involved and try it. So this is a way of combining the two sort of incentive models. the last bullet here is to say that what's going to happen in the future is that from a financial incentive basis, we may see benefit plans where if Jane is participating in the wellness education that we offer, we will actually reduce the amount of premium sharing that she pays into the benefit plan as a result of that participation. So that's, again, another way of linking financial incentive in, but it's connected to the benefit plan. And we call that a reduction, say, in her out-of-pocket expenses. That's how you are now bringing an approach to prevention, combining it in with what you're offering in terms of benefits.
Yeah,
so they kind of go
fantastic.
hand in hand. Yeah, that's something that is definitely happening and will become more and more popular. So I guess there's a couple more bullets I can share in a second in terms of some other ideas if we have a few more minutes. But what I would rather kind of wrap up with here is to say that this is really a totally different message that we're giving to our employees. We're telling them that when you come to work with me, let me give you an example. If I'm an employer and I'm hiring somebody, I can now tell them that in addition to a benefit plan that will protect them and will reimburse them for various expenses that they may have, I am going to invest in their own well-being. And that employee will see and notice that the peers that they're going to work with are also participating and really thriving and enjoying an opportunity of feeling better and healthier, and everybody's benefiting from it. So I think a lot of people who are applying for jobs or in that onboarding process would love to hear that message from their employer in a much more positive way of beginning the conversation around benefits and wellness.
I would think that's a huge thing for attracting new employees, especially attracting employees, with in the demographic, that you're in when you're becoming a new employee. You're probably in the 30 to 40 age bracket, and you're probably then, when you're joining your firm, it's not just about the paycheck anymore. Yeah, the paycheck is important, but it's more about, listen, if I'm going to spend this much time every day at a workplace, I'm going to enjoy it. It's not about I'm working for the paycheck. It's about I'm working for the experience. I'm working because I really, really like what I'm doing. And, and that's evidenced by rate at which employees are jumping from office to office and company to company. I believe it has a lot to do with the fact that they're just not finding at a lot of the workplaces that they're working at the level of enjoyment of culture, the culture that's there. And I think that does play a huge factor into retaining great employees.
Yeah, and bottom line, that's why really we're providing benefits and providing these extra offerings to our employees, because we're trying to enhance and improve that relationship that we have with them. And I'll go even a step further. When you talk about employees who are so-called, disengaged, they're disengaged usually when it comes to their relationship with their supervisor, and that is usually a factor of low levels of communication, low levels of appreciation. And obviously, we want to improve those relationships. But what's amazing is people who have actually become healthier, more energetic individuals who are really finding happiness in life as a whole. So they've found hobbies and they've found how to be fulfilled with their family life, and they've got energy. They're actually, because they're so much more engaged in life in general, they don't tie their happiness completely to their work. They don't simply say, well, I love or I don't like my work, and therefore I stay or I go. Really, work is great, and it does what I do what I do, but my life is also about what I get from the rest of my life. So if we can build higher levels of so-called happiness in our employees, they won't measure their life happiness based on just their experience in the workplace.
Yeah, excellent.
So that's pretty cool, too. If we have a couple more minutes, I guess I could just sort of throw out a few other things if people are interested. We talked in probably our last call about this concept of a benefits philosophy, and I still believe that employers need to stop and do this exercise first. They need to determine why they provide benefits and what is the role of that benefit plan. And doing that discussion and exercise first is where you need to go before you even talk about all these tactics that we're talking about even today. Now, another thing that's concerning for a lot of employers is how to get employees back to work faster. Even my smallest clients are saying that when I have an employee who's away, I don't really know how to manage that so-called back-to-work process. So we're finding that even the smallest employers are requiring some sort of early intervention strategy or even an outside provider that will provide a so-called disability management approach. And it's almost like in the larger employers, they have so-called medical directors who try to help that employee get through to the right treatments and get a faster diagnosis. And because we need to shrink the time that people are sitting around waiting for appointments and waiting for diagnosis and so on. So this is an issue that is happening even with smaller employers, as I've found. So I think we've really just talked about this, is that we need to have a much more positive experience in the hiring and the onboarding process, and that's where this whole wellness and benefit combination story really comes together. I threw out 3 very quick ideas there, but I just wanted to fill in some gap there with maybe a few other things.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, yeah, I mean, and it's interesting. Whenever I have a conversation with you about employee benefits, I mean, the topic on the surface isn't necessarily one that people are riveted by at first, like, oh, great, another employee benefits discussion. But I find as a business owner myself, and for our business owner clients and any business owner watching this presentation, what it does is it just makes you reflect back to, listen, we understand that we are running a company, and the company can't be run without our employees, and the employees are critical. Now, historically, employers, I think, have oftentimes seen their benefits plan as an expense. And what I'm hearing from you is that there are ways of turning that expense into an investment. And look at it as an investment. Look at it as there's more to it than just the medical, the dental, the LTD, the CI, and all the things that you hope never happen to your employee, but you feel you need to put something in place because, maybe the employers are asking for it, or it's just something you wanted to do. But when you can actually turn it into enhancing the culture of the company, it really is an avenue into just getting and engaging your employees to a level that maybe they've never been really engaged to. And when they get more engaged, they get more responsible, they get more energy, they're just happier, and they're more creative, and all of a sudden they're just better at what they do, and you've got this team of high talent that you've created and nurtured along the way. So, and at the end of the day, it sounds like, oh, that's a big job for an employer to take on. But the reality is they're not necessarily taking it on when they've got somebody like you who can come in and say, listen, I've already got the roadmap here. I've already put this in place. If you just follow this process, then we will gain so many of those benefits that we've just talked about, and you won't have to, it's not on your shoulders. We're going to show you exactly what needs to be done and how to do it.
Yeah, that's right, because it maybe sound very high level and very very strategic and time consuming with something that a small business might say, I really don't have that time to put in. I need to plug in and play it and run it. I guess the concept here is, we can still go in and do that. We can still put in processes and put in new designs, and it's up to us to do that work, right? Yep. Take care of that and walk you through it to get it done. So it doesn't have to be that complicated at the end of the day. It can, but you obviously need right help to get it finished.
Absolutely, and it's the follow through, and it's the fact that you've got a process that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And at the end of the day, it's just you're much better for it. Having gone through that process, and you've just got a much better plan. So, well, that's fantastic. Yeah. I really appreciate you going through that. I mean, as I said before, it's not something where employee benefits has ever been thought of as the most riveting conversation, but the way, the direction you're taking it and how far forward you're looking and saying, you know what, if we don't do something about this now, we're going to have plans that people are less happy with, and they're going to cost you more. And the solutions you're putting in place are solving that problem by saying at the end of the day, you're going to have people who are happier with their plans, are probably costing less because your claims experience and claims history will probably go down because people are going to be more engaged and want to continue working with the company because they love it so much.
Yeah.
Well,
that's really the long-term strategy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that's great, Roger. Well, listen, thanks again so much for taking the time today and to go through this with me, and I really look forward to our next chat in the future.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's my pleasure.
Thank you for listening to today's call. If you require further information or have a question relating to today's call, please go to the comments section in the show notes below. Ask your question or make your comment and we'll respond directly online. If you would like to take advantage of a free, no-obligation appointment, please call me at 416-626-6515. Or you can visit us on YouTube by checking out our YouTube channel, youtube.com/IronShieldCFP. Follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/IronShieldCFP. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/IronShieldCFP. Or you can connect with me on LinkedIn.